Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Namaskar Mitro. Today again we are here with Swami Prajnanand Ji for an episode on Common Indian Voice about the Bhagavad Gita. Today we'll be asking some questions which our audience have asked, and then Swamiji will tell us about chapter 6. Swamiji, let's
Om Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsa Chanooramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om.
So Swamiji, last time we were discussing chapter 5, and we have one question from the audience. Puneet Goel, he has asked one question, that when Bhagwan says that I stay in the heart of all creatures, Sarva Bhutanam Hridayeshu Tishtati Arjuna, aisa Bhagwan kehte hain. So that Hriday, what is that particular organ? Is it a particular organ in the body or something else?
Yes. In the vertebrates, there is a heart organ called heart. So the place is very defined. There is no problem. But in other creatures, plants, planktons, microbes, invertebrate, also in many of them, they do not have anything specifically which can be called a heart. But the circulation of life currents in some form, in a fluid or energy form, is there. Like these days, a very famous creature is there, which can't be even seen, a virus, COVID. But so it is only energy. It can transform itself in a nanosecond. It finds out that the body cells have identified me as an enemy. It immediately changes its form. But the body cells have codes to find out many millions of forms of such viruses and other things which are against the body. So they are still eliminated at any level. So the heart means a place where the very feeling of me, feeling, discretion, understanding, that of course stays with the head only, but this feeling of me, that is a universal signal for myself. I did it, I came, I am telling. So that feeling of one's own self, aham, I am, asmi, iti, I am like this, I am this, aham, I am, asmi. Asmi is am. So aham, I am is this. This am means I am this. This sense of total identification with the form, it stays with all the beings. So this sense of being is called the heart of being, the heart of matters. Matters do not have a heart, but there is a heart of matters. It means it is the very essence that I am this. It is this. So that being, feeling of being, is the heart. So the very central theme, purpose of one's own being lies there. where mere intellectual understanding of myself will be, I am composed of this many cells, which again have different compositions of different elements, etc., etc. And then the physical forces, like I usually tell our students here, that the supercomputers operate with an energy of megawatts, but brain, which has the power of many supercomputers. In fact, I have a book, Brain, in which it is said that all the supercomputers in the world cannot have a computing power of a single human brain. But it operates at a mere 6 volts. It is said like that. So all this understanding, so-called scientific understanding, analytical understanding of oneself to be cells, chemicals, energies, organs, etc., etc., even a personality, they don't give a full satisfaction of one's own being. The full satisfaction of one's own being is derived when that I am this and I enjoy it. Asti bhati priya. It is there, I feel it, bhati, feel it, and priya, I like it. So one's own being is the greatest thing which one likes. There is no other love which is beyond the love of one's own being. So this is the heart. And what is the root of this feeling of being? Like a flower has a full completeness. It is a part of a plant. The plant is also a complete, but it is a mere small entity on the soil. Similarly, it goes on and on. So this feeling of completeness, even in the smallest of the being, that self-sufficiency, suppose those who are here, they expel me, I will find out some other method of living and progressing, isn't it? So that feeling of completeness in myself, in every being it is there. That is God. That is an expression of God. But it is outward driven. So we don't feel God. We feel ourselves, but we don't feel the God in ourselves. This is what Shastras want to tell. This is what Krishna tells again and again, that I have become all this. Maya tadamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. In a formless manner, I permeate all these beings in this creation. So that bold statement by a merely seemingly human Sri Krishna, Vasudeva Krishna, that is a huge statement for any man in a human form to make. Maya tadamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. Avyakta murtina. I am formless and I permeate. So it is in that manner that Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesharthina tishtadi. Hey Arjuna, Ishvara is there at the heart of all beings. Does that explain?
Yes.
Anything left?
So in a way, it is also the other side of the same feeling is the ego.
Okay.
Is it? Like when we say I am, so that comes from our ego, does it not? So it's the heart, the ego, or is it something else then?
You can see Swami Shivananda in the background, I believe, with a garland. So Swami Shivananda used to say, Mr. So and so is a false entity. Ego latches on to the recognition by others.
Mhm.
It latches on, what is it? Clings on to, hitches on to the recognition by others, so-called others.
Right.
So, but it is a false entity. They can change their opinion anytime.
Mm.
You will say, oh, a great Swami, such a knowledgeable person, and had a life of lifelong celibacy and penance, and had a great moral strength and mental strength. And next day you might change the opinion, oh, he was a fraud, I did not know. So all these things. Asharam Bapuji was so celebrated and today he is a convict.
Mm.
So these things, Mr. So and so can change anytime. It is in others' recognition. It is not my own existence. So
Right.
I have taken this stand from childhood that nobody will define me. I will define myself. The strong stand from very, very childhood I have taken. All used to say, you are very stubborn. But I told, I am telling you my stand. If you don't like it, it is your problem. I will not change. Why should I change for you? Tomorrow you will demand something else from me. How can that be? And this ego has a big problem.
Mm.
If that same somebody respects you, it's all right. If that same level of respect is not extended throughout the life, you feel very sad, depressed. Similarly, these expectations, if somebody insults you, then it causes all this kama, krodha, shad, ribu, ego.
Mm.
So do not attach on to this false image of being living in others' impressions. Means he is thinking, she is thinking like this, like that.
Mhm.
This will drive you mad. Be at peace with yourself. And if others are not at peace with you, it is their problem.
Mhm.
Try to be loving, try to be very calm, quiet, and everything. That yoga also says. Yoga doesn't say that you confine entirely to yourself. So yoga says positive action, go out and love, but don't ask for return love. Then you will be in trouble, isn't it? It is a one-way ticket. You can go and buy a ticket, but no refund. Okay.
Okay, so what I understood in the end was that it is that in our thoughts, when we think that I am, that is where God also resides. When we think of ourselves as a separate entity, so kind of like Purnamida Purnamidam, that shloka that when we recite, we are part of God, but we are complete in ourselves, and in that um, uh, that completeness God resides.
We are complete in ourselves because we are part of God.
Hmm. All right.
But we forget the God part.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So the next question that came from me actually, which is
Go ahead.
when Bhagwan Krishna says that in whichever form you pray to me, in that very form you will find me. I will give you. I'll make your devotion firm in that form itself. So is it should God be helping us progress from like the God with form and name, and then later on he becomes a God which is like without name and without form? So if he makes us firm um, in this name and form phase of his, then how will we progress?
When someone is at the stage, as you mentioned, of worshipping an Ishta Devata in name and form, it is not an inferior worship. The amount of devotion is even fiercer, more intense. It has to be intense. It is like a child's love for the mother. It is an intense, personal, and extremely, what is it called? A right, child's right that mother should pay attention to me. Otherwise, it will throw a tantrum. Because it demands that I also be loved. I love you intensely and I also be loved and paid attention to. I can't live without you. So is it not necessary in the initial stages? After a child is 5, 6 years of age, if he or she tries to stick to the mother, mother will drive them away. Hey, let me complete my work. Go and study. Sit there with your grandparents or father or anybody. Go out and play with your friends. Don't disturb me. But the love is not less. But the intense demonstration need not be there always. So, when the Ishta Devata is worshipped, the love is intense and is also seen to be intense. But when further growth is there, the Ishta Devata form and name, the worship, the devotee, he grows up and becomes a more formless love. Grows into a formless love. The best example is mother's love only. Mother's love and child's love for mother. Both are there as intense as before, but that demonstration of intensity is not necessary. It even seems to be a little bothersome also.
Right.
And it cannot continue in the same form. After 15 or 16, child cannot run and jump to mother's lap. He will break her leg. So that in the same form the worship continues, that is also not desirable. All these have to be considered. So it is the love, we should be the natural, formless love of the Supreme, between the Supreme and individual. All these descriptions are in their place, correct. But we cannot say that the intense personal love and cry for attention of the Ishta Devata is an inferior love. One. Having said that, where do this sloga come from?
From
Krishna says.
Krishna himself, yes.
Krishna says, Kamshanda karmanam siddhim. For fruits of action, worship. Karma is worship here. Kamshanda karmanam siddhim. Yajanda anyatra devata. People worship different gods, having a desire for their fruits of worship, that this God will provide me this. And it is me who give them that fruit through my system. But they don't know me in a true manner, in a real manner. My reality is not known to them. So, Tattvenadas Chavandite. They are put into trouble because They don't know me in principle, in reality. My real nature is not known to them. So this in this context, Krishna is saying it is not wrong. I am not saying that worshipping other forms and names of God is not wrong. It is my worship only. But they are worshipping me through that name and form without knowing my real nature. This my real nature has two sides. One is that in spite of appearing to have a name and form and a place and context, Krishna is not there. Just as he is speaking to Arjuna, Krishna is not there actually. It is just a Maya Rupa, which he knows that this is a Maya Rupa. Prakritim swam avashtabhya sambhavam atma mayaya. I have just made use of my own. Just like somebody making a film with himself as hero. He knows very well that my life is not that film. So he might go and watch it in a theater, but he will not. That is me, he might say also, for others' conviction. But he knows very well that sitting here, I am not there. So all this talk is in a Maya world for the Maya people in the Maya. So these languages just come up. They should not be taken in their literal meaning. Those who go for the literal meaning are killing the real meaning. So Krishna is not there actually. That is one thing about the name and form of Krishna. When Krishna is worshipped even as a personal God, he is assuring us or reminding us that I am the supreme consciousness only. Yesterday, a great saint of Shivananda order, Swami Krishnananda, it was his birth centenary. He was born in a place called Puttur near Mysore. So, Swami Krishnananda was very emphatic on this point that the individual consciousness is the limiting and binding space. Our real space and real consciousness is, which is unlimited and unbinding, is God consciousness. So is that operative in our real lives? What we call real normal life? It is. Otherwise, how these 40 trillion cells are managed in this body? Made, remade, and replaced every day. Crores of them. Is there any conscious action from our side? How do we digest? How do we see? How do we hear? Does anybody think? One thing is that. So the Ishvara consciousness is managing our individual consciousness very well. Even better than what intelligence and other aspects of person individual can do. I don't usually use the word person because it's an illusion. I use the word individual. So it is better, management is better when God consciousness is allowed to manage. Let go and let God. So where is this God consciousness? The human beings are aware that we are in a world. This world consists of not only earth, but sun, moon, stars, and galaxy. We look at the sky often as if we are connected with that. In olden times, even now, people have astrology, where the connection, how the stars and galaxy are trying to manipulate me. They want to know. And even now, we have all these telescopes and rockets going up, searching for things beyond our sight and hearing, because we are conscious that these things are there. In olden times, they were merely lights.
Right.
The fireflies of sky which are seen, the stars. So, such was the stories and imaginations. Even now it is fed to the children, so that their attraction is there. So this from where does this world consciousness come from? Universal consciousness come from? It comes from God consciousness or where else? So we are living in the, as a body also, we are living in the God consciousness, which manages individual consciousness, which again manages the life currents and which manage the body. Without all this setup, you cannot live in a society as a person also. But that personal life is illusionary and cause of pain. It is because we limit ourselves to the individual space called body that we have to undergo this pain. So this God consciousness is there with us. So when we worship gods, we are actually worshipping the formulas. We are worshipping our own self, but at a higher level, higher consciousness. Swami, no, not Swami, Maharishi Aravinda even assumed that if there is a consciousness, then it must be having a mind also. So he called it supra mind or something else, transcendental mind, and all these terms are used. So it is that mind which is causing us this personal space in the society and other things. But they are very vague ideas and not worth thinking about. This might seem to be a very revolutionary thing for those who are not well versed with the spiritual world, but it is the truth. Oh.
Okay. So, so that means that in whatever form we worship, we are still worshipping the Supreme God, the Brahma. So it doesn't matter. We shouldn't really care what
whether it is formless or form, these things are not, they don't matter.
Right. So I think once again, it's ego only which says, oh, I'm at a higher level than the other people, or I should go to a higher level. Probably just the work of ego that's telling me that this
ego itself cannot do anything. It is an illusionary being. Again, this has to be very, very clear. Ego can't do anything. It is out there. How can it bother you? What is bothering you is the ignorance that I am not that. This connection with the ego.
Right.
That ignorance is bothering you. It is causing trouble and it is binding us to this individual space without allowing us to be aware of the higher levels. Oh.
So, Swamiji, will you tell us something about the next chapter today, chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita?
Chapter 6 is the last chapter of the first Shadka. Shadka is 6 chapters, set of 6 chapters. It is generally, to understand Gita in a concise form, it is generally said that there are 18 chapters which have been packed into 6 each, that is 3 Shadkas. Set of 6 is a Shadka. And each chapter has a prakaran and sloka. In this manner, Bhagavad Gita is understood. So the 6th chapter is Atma Sanyama Yoga. Till now, Arjuna has been told, in order that you are not the body, because body comes and goes. You don't have such feeling about yourself. Even after death, it is so. But to have this jnana and live accordingly, you have to stick to your dharma. So dharma nidhanam saya. And then again, how as Sthita Prajna, self-realized one, has to behave and live, that has been told. And a little bit karma yoga also was put in by Sri Krishna, that your life should be karma yoga. Karma is naturally there, but it should be yoga also. In the third chapter, Arjuna again asks, Buddhi you told, and now you are saying about karma again. Then told, I did not say Buddhi means knowledge. I said Buddhi means the discretion, Viveka, that karma should be yoga. So I told about karma yoga only, not about path of knowledge. And then Sri Krishna gives his own personal example, that of others, and ask Arjuna to follow the path of karma only. Kuru karmaiva tasmatvam, purvai purvataram kritam, like your ancestors did. So the best of the traditions have to be followed in life. And always this consciousness, higher consciousness, have to be kept in mind while doing all the action. You can't lower your dignity like becoming an individual consciousness. That way Arjuna is again told. In the fourth chapter and fifth chapter, it is knowledge-based karma. And after that and Krishna says that I am at the center of all this yoga. That's why my avatara happens again and again to remind you about this when you forget. So human beings have to be told again and again because they'll get lost in ignorance. That is why we are human beings. If you don't practice, we will forget. And so in the sixth chapter, the explanation is about intense practice. So the intense practice, like these days, great machines are controlled by remote control. Very insignificant little electron. So similarly, our subtle forces, they have to be realized, which are really moving this great machine called the universe. So those subtle forces, what are they? In an individual and in the world consciousness, what are the subtle forces which are operating? To know this, one has to withdraw, sit and meditate. So Atma Sanyama Yoga, Sri Krishna is telling the art of meditation, how to meditate. Why to meditate has been told, because you have to realize this God consciousness. For that you have to meditate. This is what Sri Krishna tells in 6th chapter. Now, why it is told in a battlefield is a very big mystery. Because nobody can meditate in a battlefield. Still, so Krishna says, with bhakti, if you find me everywhere, so that practice can be done in meditation, and through bhakti it can be mended. When in the Vyavahara Kala, through bhakti, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra, when I am seen everywhere by the yogi, then he remains a yogi in Vyavahara Samaya also, in the time of actually doing things mentally, physically and verbally. He can maintain that level of meditation if there is a devotion and this knowledge that God is everywhere in everything. So that level will be maintained naturally. When you see a person, an individual, as I am saying, when you see an individual, you have an idea of who he is. Then you behave accordingly, isn't it? Similarly, when we see God everywhere, our behavior will be according to yoga. Our behavior will be yoga, our life will be yoga. Then Krishna concludes by saying that those who have right techniques, they can control the mind and reach this state of Atma Sanyama Yoga, yoga of self-control. Then Arjuna says, if one misses, then what happens? In meditation, one has attained, but if he misses in the life due to various pulls and pressures, attractions, lust, or anything, former habits, full of former habits or situations, then what happens? Don't worry. That level will stay and he will gain in the next life or a few lives more. But he will be on the path. He will be on the course. He will not miss me reaching the universal consciousness, level of universal consciousness. This Sri Krishna assures, and the chapter is concluded. So it is a chapter of meditation and seeing divinity everywhere. Oh.
So basically, yoga is when we start seeing God everywhere, in our karma, in our knowledge, in the universe, in other people. Is that the truer sense of yoga?
In our being.
In our own. Yes.
In our being we see, then we see everywhere. Because it is the consciousness which is everything. So if our consciousness is God consciousness, divinified consciousness, then we see God everywhere, otherwise we can't. Artificially pretending to see God and doing a drama, all this will not help. Hey Bhagavan, aap padare hain. These things will not help. I feel very disturbed when such hypocrisy is displayed. So even somebody, if they praise me, oh, you are really a God, then I told, please don't say all these things. Because I don't like it. That's why in that way I stopped them, checked them. So pretending, if we are really inside feeling that we are having this divinity, then we will express it in our love, in our actions. That love, divine love, will be expressed in actions, because we will be really knowing and feeling that there is divinity everywhere. This is paper and ink. But for me, it is Bhagavad Gita. I love it. This is Malayalam. So why I love that paper and ink? Because of my consciousness says there is God in it. So similarly, everything that can be identified, as we have discussed in the beginning of the discussion, as God, this has to be a firm experience. For that, we should, in our being, there should be God.
Okay. So what I understood in the end is that when we join our own being, connect our own being with God, that connection is yoga.
Definitely.
So from that, all other yoga will happen. Gyan yoga, karam yoga, bhakti yoga, everything will happen when that yoga has happened.
Yes. All those words which describe those yogas will become meaningful.
Right. So that is good to know.
Word should have a meaning.
Yes. So that meaning of yoga, which says bringing together of two things. So it is bringing together of the self with the super consciousness, the self-consciousness.
This is what we call divine life. In Divine Life Society, established by Swami Shivananda. This is the divine life. We don't want them to become society members. If they can, it is good, but we want them to lead a divine life.
So let's conclude today's talk then, or is there anything else you would like to add?
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om.
Dhanyavad Swamiji. So viewers, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. and we will continue the discussion next week.